Hi gang, I've been asked several times over the years to show my guitar collection. I'm not really a collector, so I don't have a bazillion guitars or amps. I guess the only thing I collect maybe is like 80s, 90s guitar preamps, because I don't use them that much, but I'm not getting rid of them ever. They're there to stay. You know, the Fish and the X88 and stuff like that. Also like some reverbs like PCM 70s and stuff like, I do use them, so I don't know. But not a huge guitar collector, I think. I've just kind of gotten new ones. Well, I'm not a huge guitar collector, I think. What has happened is I kept trying to find like the one guitar, and I'd go to another and keep refining and refining, and I realized like there is no one guitar, there is several. And I'm in a really happy place now where I love all of my guitars. Actually, I have probably more than I'm comfortable with right now. So there'll be some I'll end up selling. So this is also just a nice sort of like a memory video for myself. But I'll show you all the guitars I have. And just play a little bit. I'm not going to play a lot or it'll take forever. Plugged into that Astro 20, going direct out. This is the first one up. This is my Gibson Les Paul R8. It's my number one guitar for ages and ages. It's really when I found love in guitar with this one. I went to Guitar Center to buy a Slash Burst, and my friend who worked there, who did the ordering, he is a huge Kiss fan, and so he ordered the more red Ace Frehley style. I was like, I wanted the Slash, but he's like, why would you want that? This is what you want. But I'm so happy with it. I swapped out the pickups to Lawler Imperials, and I swapped out the what is it called, volume knobs, the knobs, because the standard Les Paul standard knobs, I just can't turn. I can't get a grip on them. I have super dry skin. So the custom knobs allow me to grab that, and the rest is it's all just stock. I love this guitar so much. It has a really big fat neck. It's always in E flat. Well, it's in E flat and then usually in drop D from there, because it just does that. It's got that thing. Next up is my 80s Steinberger. I've always wanted one of these. Of course, I would have loved the dual humbuckers like Vito had, but I'm happy with this. They sound great. And actually, Vito's neck pickup was the EMG that sounds like a single coil. So it's pretty much the sound that he has there. And it's an EMG 85. They're the old ones, not the new clip-on ones. I don't know if it's because the magnet has just faded a little bit over time, but it definitely has a different sound than my other EMG 85 guitars. It's not the trans trem, but it does have the trem. The bar goes out, it's really high. It's kind of a weird thing, but this thing stays in tune so well. It's really awesome. And it's super, super comfortable. I've always wanted one. And yeah, This is my newest guitar. It's a Shabat. Shabat is, that's where I landed, where I was like, yeah, this is where everything came together. And I was getting the sort of vintage vibe with the modern hyper-built feel. And when I custom requested something, it came back exactly what I asked for, which is not always the case on custom builds and things like that. This is a Lion model. Telly is their Lion, single cut. Lollers, he uses Lollers in everything, and they sound awesome. This guitar I fell in love with. I was doing demos for them. It was the coolest sounding guitar. I've never had that neck humbucker and then Telly in the bridge, because they are very different. Like the Telly in the bridge, super bright. And then the neck humbucker's big. But together, they're just so perfect together. But I use this for everything that's sort of like indie-ish rock stuff, or like anything that's got to be kind of super cool. This is my 2020 stay-at-home built guitar. That was a really fun project to do. You see, it is a Warmoth body and neck. It's got EMGs, 85 and SA there. No tone control. This is like the Dan Huff style bridge, which I like a lot. And it was a super fun project to do, and it came out great. And it works, and it sounds awesome. I had a little help at the end from Avi Shabat, because I accidentally... That's some wonky caca. Alright, this was dumb. I installed all of the strings upside down. I didn't really care. It was just a fun project. I didn't sand the body. I just went straight for the paint, which was from like Home Depot. And also didn't care. I don't have strap things here because, couldn't be bothered. Just wanted a guitar with EMGs, and I wanted something to do, so it was super fun. This is my Shabat Lynx. Look at this This is the most bonkers flame maple neck ever. Just nuts, so beautiful. So I was over at his shop getting some work done on another guitar, maybe a setup or something like that. And he had two Lynxes, like some Sunbursts, hanging on the wall that they had just finished building. And as you do, I was like, can I just have a go? And it sounded so good. It had this sort of Telecaster firmness that just was like, blah, toughness to it. And then I was like, well, that one is really special. They were already spoken for. They were going out to whoever had bought them. I'm like, let me try the other one. The other one also was that way. So I was like, that's crazy. Did it twice. I got to order one and see if he could do it for me. So I, spent forever looking for what I wanted it to look like, and it's super beautiful. Lawler pickups again, and it feels great, plays great. This was my first Shabat, and I used this on a ton of stuff. This is my Strat. I don't even know if I have another Strat. Yeah, I don't think I have one. This is my Strat. This guitar was my second Shabat, full custom build. I talked to Avi and Brian a ton about like what I wanted on this, and they totally delivered. And this is my fun, just shredder, and I love this guitar so much. So much so that I reached for it before my Les Paul now. And it has a similar sound, partly maybe because it has Lawler Imperials also, two humbucker situation. That could be, but I can do something on the Les Paul and swap over to this, and it's not night and day difference. This does what that does for me, and it's much more comfortable and more playable, stays in tune better. It's got the Floyd. So yeah, high wind Lawler Imperial, standard Lawler Imperial, three-way pickup. I originally had, this guitar has gone through a couple pickups because I was like, well, I want to try this, and this sounded the best when all was said and done. I had the Pol Pots to split these, and it didn't sound that good. Telling you, like, every little thing makes a difference. So, and I'll explain more about that Pol Pot stuff later. But anyway, Floyd Rose with a D-Tuna on a floating bridge. So I don't even know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but I jump back and forth between standard and drop D when I'm doing heavy stuff. Not in the same song, but like day to day or whatever. So I wanted a quick way to do it without having to re-nut and all that stuff. Upside down headstock, and then they had to cut around that extra jut out there. Yeah, love this guitar. this one is my sweet baby girl. Oh, I love this so much. Another Shabat. Very similar to that last one. In fact, what happened is I fell in love with that last one so much. The sort of blue-green, the beetle green lion. We'll call that green lion. So what happened is I fell in love with green lion so much, but that's in E flat for E flat and drop D, that when I wanted standard, like, I just didn't want to go back to another guitar. I was so happy with it. And the neck was custom shaped for me on both of these. I brought over some necks I loved, and they found this perfect balance between all of them and what they do. So I just didn't want to leave that sweet spot for me. So this is the same neck as the last one. Lawler Imperial high wind, but this is an El Rayo humbucker. I wanted a little more single coil kind of sound. It's not that different than the Imperial, at least in this guitar. Maybe it's a little rounder, maybe it's a little quieter. I'm not really sure. It doesn't seem to make a huge difference. 3-position, again, no coil splitting. I'll just roll the volume back or something like that if I want the coil splitting. I have a weird setup of springs in the back that I've found is where I want it to be. I also didn't want a Floyd on that one because I don't know. It's just different, right? And truly, this is very Michael Landau inspired. He has his Strat with this Lawler pickup cover. And I always thought that sounded super cool. So this is what I play. I reach for first almost all the time. Maybe that black one too, the Black Lion. But this is super home for me. This guitar is very special to me. It is my James Tyler Studio Elite in Ninja Vomit. It is called Ninja Vomit because I always love, well, like, I'm a Michael Landau freak. I love Landau. And he always had the Burning Water, and which I loved. I considered just getting that, but I wanted something that didn't have, I get in a headspace of, if I play like a Lukather signature guitar, you gotta play Toto songs on it and Lukather stuff. If I had a John Petrucci, gotta only play Dream Theater. So I didn't want something that was just Michael Landau. I don't know. It's a weird thing. So Rich Rankin over there, who I've known for a long time and is an awesome dude, worked with me on this. And we took the Psychedelic Vomit Landau and we swapped out, I think it was the purple, and made it black. And my music video game scoring company for trailers and stuff is called Ninja Tracks. And so we called it Ninja Vomit, which was super cool. And they were so helpful. Rich, he was awesome in getting this done. It's a strange cross between a Landau and a Huff. So the Huff neck was too flat for me. This is the Landau neck, which was based, I think, off of its 59 Strat. And then the pickups are clearly Huff. This is that Seymour Duncan, and this is the Tyler. I always forget which one it is. I think it's the Super, but I'm going to put it right here what it is. It is the Tyler, which is essentially their take on like the JB, because that's what Dan Huff had. Now this madness down here, over here, this is really super cool. These three switches each have a parallel and a coil tap, so you could hear the coil tap hum, and then parallel full humbucking. So you can switch individually, which is really great. Let's do the bridge and middle here. It's already a cool sound. But if I throw like the bridge humbucker into parallel, that sounds much more like, I don't know, it sounds more like it would fit in the record for that kind of part. And then you could switch them all. Volume. It's getting like smaller and smaller, but it's really nice. You could just do one of them instead of switch everything. I've got two secret buttons here. This button activates the Demeter preamp, which originally was called like a mid-boost preamp, but I think Tyler changed the frequency, so it really feels like a bass boost. That doesn't matter because I almost always have it all the way down. In fact, it doesn't need a knob. You just need it on or off, and it becomes like, well, take a listen. This is with it. I'm gonna do the bridge pickup in parallel, right? And then with the preamp in. The preamp in. Preamp out. This other secret button here, this activates, I can't remember actually, but what it happens is it turns on all three pickups. Not just by pushing it in, but if you go into the position 2 or 4 and use that, now you've got all three pickups going. So many tonal options here. It's super great. Now, one thing I found, and it just kind of worked out because this is like the works package in here, is that the bridge with all of this business, this affects that straight line thing. There's a reason Eddie Van Halen just ran straight to his volume knob. There's a more solid directness to the sound. I don't know why, but this switch does that. It cuts straight through and bypasses all of this business, which is also important because, so if I've got all the pickups going and I'm trying to do like a thing, and I want to get to the bridge, I'm not going to be switching, hang on, I'm almost there, guys. And then to get to the bridge, forget that. So I could leave all of this business in, hit this one switch, but I do love this guitar, and it's super rad. I've always loved this too, that cutaway, so rad. This is an Epiphone Casino, it says it's an Epiphone Casino style E230TD, maybe, with the classic Epiphone headstock. And this guitar is awesome. It's oodles and oodles of vibe. I used to have a 335, and I got rid of it because this did everything that I needed it to. Yeah, this one's really great, especially with fuzz. It gets humongous. This gets resonating and stuff. I bought it secondhand. I think it's a reissue. I'm sure it's a reissue, but it was a reissue when, I don't know, and it sounds great and it plays great. So in my head, this is classic Gibson Epiphone, like Epiphone doing what it does best, which is beating Gibson, you know. Another Shabat. This is Lion Special, I think. This has the snake head top, which I was not a fan of until I saw it on this guitar, which makes sense because this is the most hybrid Les Paul telly ever. And I got this because you'll see in a minute, I have a Les Paul Custom in this getup that I just don't play that much, and like, ooh, this could be I could have that Les Paul Custom in a telly that I use. It's a single P90, which is a bit controversial for me because I do like a neck pickup, and I prefer a humbucker. So I'm still coming to grips with that, but every time I plug this in, I'm like, oh, it plays so well. It's a Gibson, it's a Gibson scale neck also. It's the most buttery. It's just so awesome. And beef balls. It's a killer guitar. It's freaking fantastic. It's light. Lion STP, that's what it's called. There you go. This is the bass I use on everything, I would say in the past year or so, which I love this bass. It is a Dingwall Nolly Get Good 5-string with all of this preamp business, and you can turn off the preamp and go direct. Obviously fan frets, which I find really weird to play, and sometimes I kind of miss. So if I had to play live in bass, this would not be my first choice. Also, I think it looks not my favorite, but it sounds so good that it sort of changed the game for me in terms of bass guitar. It sits the way I want to sit. I use less processing, less EQ. It just like sounds great. So yeah, kudos to them for this. I wish they just made a more traditional looking one, or I gotta find something that looks traditional that does just the great tonal balance and bigness that this does. This is my Fender Strat, or it used to be anyway. It was like a custom shop 70s with a big headstock, which Landau would use those from time to time, and I thought was super cool. I got this, it had a weird feeling neck to me, so I thought like, well, I'm gonna shave it down. I'll professionally have someone shave it down to what I would like. And I didn't like it, but I ruined the neck, kinda, or certainly ruined the value of the guitar. I yoinked the neck, gave it to a friend, and Michael Torn let me have this Kenny Wayne Shepherd signature neck that he had laying around, which he felt was too fat for what he's used to, and I liked it. It was kind of the shape that I like. So that worked out nicely. And then you see there's nothing happening right now. Dave Friedman and I were talking about like doing a video of, he wired this up. You could switch from 500K to 250K and see what the difference is, how it affects the pickup. So I just haven't got around to doing it. I will one day, and then I'll put this back together. This is my only nylon string. It sounds really nice. It's not a very expensive one. It's a Cordoba. But I find with nylon strings, you could kind of get away with a cheaper one most of the time, unless you're, you know, like a super skilled. But I am not. I just have to use it when someone needs it, which hasn't been a very long time. This is my son's Fender Lead II. Single coils, kind of in it's a weird guitar. I bought this for him when he was learning to play guitar, maybe in his 5th grade or something like that. And as we were sitting down for a lesson, he kept looking over my shoulder going like, what is that? Points to my P bass, and he's like, can I see that? Ends up loving the bass because it's 4 strings instead of 6, and you play one at a time. So, but he ended up really loving it, and he's a good bass player, so that's fun. And so I kind of stole this guitar back from him. It's weird. That's him making the noise in the background, if you hear that too. It's really bright, so it's great for like super indie and odd stuff. This is my PRS Custom 22. It is an old one. I don't know if it's a 10 top or not. It's got a nice little finish there. Up here it says 10 on the headstock. Does that mean it's a 10 top? I don't know. I remember specifically the guy at the store saying, it looks like a 10 top, but it's not a 10 top. So I don't know. I got it for maybe around like $2,500 or some $2,000 or something like that. Way back when I had just graduated college, And I convinced my girlfriend at the time to put this on her credit card because I needed a guitar. I had that Ibanez, and the Ibanez just wasn't cool. So at the time. And at the time, you know, it's like Collective Soul was playing this. George Lynch had moved over here. Dan Huff was playing PRSs. And it was like, well, I think PRS is the way to go. This used to have a knob for the pickup selector, which was a horrible design. So I had that swapped out to that. And it's a really good guitar. It's the wide, I don't know if it's wide flat or narrow flat. Standard flat. It's kind of the flatter one. I like the wide fat neck a lot more, so I don't play it too much, but it does sound good. It sounds like a big fat PRS, and I don't know if they make the custom 22 anymore. Everything seems to be custom 24, which seems like it would move this pickup down a little bit. But yeah. Oh yeah, the girlfriend story, that ended up working out. We got married, so you know, buy a guy a guitar and that's what happens. This is my Friedman Blue. I don't really name my guitars, so it's just the Blue Friedman. I custom ordered this. The color didn't come back quite right. They had one that was in this deep blue. It was a prototype I saw that was like the most gorgeous blue. And then this showed up. I was like, well, okay. Still looks cool. This is one of the nicest necks I've ever felt. It's just absolutely so great. This was built by Grover Jackson, and it's really cool because in the Friedman promo video for their guitars, you could see Grover working on this one, and it says in the neck joint, MN. Yep, this is Michael Nielsen in the back there. So that's super cool. Yeah, I don't play this too much. I did for a while. You've seen it in videos if you've watched my channel for a while. It has a boat cut for the pickups. That means that when they route out the pickups, they just cut a huge section out. And, you know, I'm not a fan of that, especially if it goes over here, because this is what happens. It becomes a WWF wrestling rink that everything goes boom, boom, boom on, especially if you put in some gain and you're picking, that just comes through, and it's a problem. And also, I think because of the boat cut, it ends up feeling a bit like a semi-hollow. It has a really soft sort of attack. And it's nice for this hybrid single coil sort of thing, but as a rocker, it's maybe not tough enough sounding, but this is a really special guitar for me too. I really love this, and it came out pretty rad looking. this is one of my favorite guitars I have. This is my Friedman Cali. I was able to go to the factory and I went for a red one. I was gonna get the closest to a Jack Butler guitar, especially since Grover Jackson was building them. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. And I went and I played like 15 guitars, and this is the one. This is just, it was so perfect. And Dave was there and he's like, dude, get the one that's talking to you, the one that's, you know that's the one. Don't just get the other one because you came here for a red one. And he was right. He's usually right, by the way. 2 humbuckers. This is the Friedman Classic. It came with the Classic Plus, which is I think they call it scatter wound, and it has that sort of Van Halen really bright thing. It was a little too bright for what I was going for, so I swapped it out for a JB. And controversially, you may see over the years this has had different fret markers, and that's because the Friedmans and the Shabats also have done this, where it's just an open circle and you can barely see them, and I hate that. I totally hate it. I just like dots. So I got dot stickers, and I never feel them in there. They're totally transparent. It's great. Are these actually? Yeah, these are stickers. I even forgot. That's how, like, they blended in pretty well. This one, this is just my tribute to Chris DeGarmo with his ESPs. And then the purple pickup is also a sticker. That's a tribute to Andy Timmons in his Danger Danger days. The Floyd is locked because when I got this, like, one of these were stripped, so it just kind of spun and never clamped down hard enough at the nut. And I didn't care because it actually worked out for the best, because I enjoy having the fine tuners in the back as well as having access to the proper tuners. Fine tuners in the back are just the best. You hold a chord and get it in tune and you're in business. And then I'm constantly switching the drop D to standard and tuning this all over the place. This is like one of the most badass sounding guitars. If I need something to be like angry rockin', you know, this is what I reach for. It's just... This is my Ibanez Jem Junior. It's the Junior. Yeah, sadly, it's the Junior. I'd love to have a real gem. I'd love to have a real yellow gem, or floral, or what is that, like fuchsia or green? Love that original run. They were so cool. I just not gonna pay $5,000 or more for a beat up gem. Yeah. So this is like the $400 or $500 version made in Indonesia. It's, let me just say, if it didn't look like a gem, I would say it's like a $200 guitar. Or less, maybe, a little bit. But because it looks like a gem, It's not bad. And it doesn't feel great. And I don't know, but it's got a really smooth. This is EVH Sassafras. Yeah, I bought this from Dave Friedman. It was his. And it was hanging in his shop, and I was like, this looks so cool. It's like the nicest color neck. Really lovely. That matte black sassafras, real cool. And Dave had deactivated the tone knob, which I think it could actually use the tone knob, because these pickups in this configuration, whatever it is, are a little bright and nasally. It's got the D-tuner. It plays great. I love this neck. It's one of the necks I went and showed the Shabat boys when I was like, I like this. And they were working on my the custom neck for my blue Shabat. I don't use it much because it is a little bitey, and it sounds awesome if you go really low tune, because that honky mid frequencies really pump out. But yeah, it's a cool one. Sassafras. This is a Luxxtone. You could go find an old NAMM video when they were launching these, and this is one of the guitars that they had on display. I had heard that he built this for, was for like a guitar magazine editor or something like that. Anyway, whoever it was for didn't take it, and I always thought this was so cool looking. And the neck on this is awesome. It is like, I was told it's like a classic old Charvel neck, not a newer one, and it just plays great. This was the one of the other necks that I brought over to Shabat to take a look at for when we were crafting my neck. It has, I've changed out the pickups since I've had this a while. It has a Warren DeMartini. It's a Seymour Duncan RTS. There's some weird letters after. It's the Warren DeMartini. Yeah. And that's kind of it. It's 007 serial number. It's a really early one. There's something about the way it plays. It has a real vocal quality to the notes. Like, I don't know if it rubs on where the frets are, but you get this almost like a vocal wah kind of quality that I really like about this guitar. This is my Ibanez RG760. Yeah, so Ibanez RG760, this was my first awesome guitar. So instead of driving, I worked all summer and I bought this. It no longer looks like an Ibanez 760. Underneath these fret markers is the shark tooth inlays, but now I duct taped over them. You see, it's just duct tape. I think it looks rad with the black on the rosewood. That's a freaking cool look to me. What happened is the 90s happened and Ibanez RG760s were not cool anymore. So yeah, I was in a band that was not 80s-y, and it was the 90s, late 90s even, and they still weren't cool. So what really started it is I had dropped it while I was tuning, and a huge chunk of wood came out of it. So my dad helped me sand it back together, and he filled it in. We repainted it matte black. He shaved down this horn, so it was less spiky horny. I don't know if you can see that. So it's a short horn there. I got a telly pickguard, a telly pickup, and this telly pickup doesn't match the tone zone that I put in there. At one point I had EMGs. It looked like Reb Beach's Ibanez that he had for a while. I blocked the trem, so this does nothing. This is my Fender Nocaster. So for the longest time I had my Ibanez, then I had the PRS, and then I had a 1952 Telecaster reissue. I got that Telecaster reissue because I was doing a session producing and engineering that Craig Ross came in and played guitar. Craig Ross is Lenny Kravitz's guitar player, and he's one of the most underrated guitar players ever. One of the best rock guitar players you'll ever hear. He's unreal. And he had a 52 reissue, and he made it sound like God. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to need one of those for sure. And that really changed the direction of like my guitar direction. I was like, yeah, man, that's phenomenal. That 52 is so hard to play. The frets were tiny, the radius was big. I don't know, it just was one of those things like if you want to bend up here, you were in trouble. And it was a little bitey for me. So at some point I traded a gold top Les Paul, just like a regular production run one, and that 52, and I got this Nocaster. The Nocaster was like, it's like a custom shop reissue of the Nocaster. It was still quite expensive, but it's got a fat neck. They call this a boat neck, I believe. And it just plays awesome. They had 3 of them there at the store, and this one I just A-B'd until this one jumped. It was like, it didn't even jump out. It was like heads and shoulders above the others in its bigness and beefiness. And I've swapped the pickups out to Kinman noiseless pickups. And I have not looked back. I've had those in here for, I don't know, 20 years, and they have just done the job, and I've used this on a million things, and it always does the job. Loud. Here we go. This is my red P90 Friedman. There you go. I'm sure you've seen this in a video if you've ever watched my channel. I've had this for quite a while. Was this the first Friedman I got? I think so. Yeah, of course it was the first Friedman I got, because this is number 11 off of the Friedman line. It's very, 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 very early. So much so, this very first run was hand-built. Everything was hand-carved out and stuff like that by Avi Shabat Guitars, before it went over to Grover Jackson's factory. And now it's somewhere else, because these are all to Dave's spec. So I mean, they vibe the same, because it's what Dave is looking for. But I was seeing this on his wall, and I was like, that's so cool. And there was a black and white one with 2 humbuckers, and I was like, I'm gonna swing by and check that out. They had because it was, you know, his brand and their shop, they had like 10 guitars on the wall or something like that. So I played through them all. And it was this one. I don't go for P90s, and yet I end up with P90s all the time. I don't know, but it's a great piece of mahogany. The neck feels good. It's maybe a little small. It's a standard sort of C. What I would say, it's a standard C. So it plays great, but I am more of a large C or almost a D kind of, that's where my hand wants to go. I usually keep this in slightly lower tuning. I do that with like mahogany guitars. I'm not sure why. Replaced the knobs with knobs I can actually grip and grab. These are Motor City pickups. At one point I've swapped this to a some noiseless P90, and it just didn't sound as good, but it was noiseless, so I used it for a while. And I do tend to use this on heavier things. But since I put it back, because there's an extra little high-end openness with these that the noiseless just couldn't beat. This is my Shur Koa. This is such a beautiful, beautiful piece of wood. Really a nice one. I had been looking for one of these forever. Couldn't find one and didn't want to spend the money on them. But I had bought a PRS, I forget what model. So beautiful. It was gorgeous, this top. And it was kind of too expensive for me to play. But I had gotten a good deal on it. This came up and I asked if the guy wanted to trade, so we just swapped. So I got a smoking deal on this. I have put out videos where I went through like 25 different pickups looking for the best pickup. This is a Third Power Riot Studio. It's a great pickup. These are the Shur V60s. But I think I might just go back to EMGs in it. There's something about this guitar calls to EMGs. It's, I mean, what can you say? It's a Shur. It's great. I don't play it much. I think I'm scared of it. I don't want to beat it up. Or maybe it just needs EMGs. my only steel string acoustic. It is a Huss Dalton. Oof, I'm beating the crap out of it back there. It is a model DRH. Obviously, it's like a D28 kind of thing, like a Martin. Sounds great. Sounds better with dead strings. I prefer it with dead strings. The new strings get a little zingy. But I got this many years ago when I was deep in Alison Krauss and Nickel Creek sort of vibes in my life. And I played it a ton, and then I fell back in love with electric guitar. And I never really looked back, so I never play acoustic. I mean, I can. I just don't really like to. It doesn't do anything for me. Sometimes I'll pick it up, but, you know, I'm an electric guy. It's to me, acoustic and electric, they're totally different instruments. In the same way, like, I can play bass, but, like, that's not my thing. This is mostly in a case most of the time, but it's a really nice guitar. This is really what I would consider my only vintage guitar. I know some people think like 90s is vintage and stuff, but they're wrong. This is a 1974 Les Paul Black Beauty Les Paul Custom, complete with broken neck headstock, you know, like some really nice beat upness. I have not had it since 1974. That would be weird. Get a baby at Les Paul, but look at the checkering on this is so cool. I hope you could see through there, like in there through the dust. Maybe in there. It's really beautiful. It's heavy as balls over here, and it has that thin neck that feels a little like bendy. The slightest touch. So you have to be careful with your intonation. It's really flat neck and flat fret. And it's a dark sounding guitar. There's no maple cap. I don't know if that's why, but or just because it's heavy. I have the original Gibson pickup in here. It's called a T-top, I think. And then this is a Friedman D because I really only use this for heavy stuff, and it's already a heavy sounding guitar, so it just sounds heavy.